For this session, I'm going to describe you my new painting, Structural Game. So the idea that I developed in this artwork is the concept of isolation induced by the pandemic during the learning process. Now I'm going to describe you the different steps I followed to create this artwork. First, to illustrate my idea of isolation, I took a photo coming from the news that represents ballot boxes which have been transformed into workspace. So you can see the boxes here and there, and you have a kind of perspective. So the importance of those ballot boxes transformed into workspace is that you have your physical entity that in the learning process is isolated from the others. But digitally speaking, you interact because when you learn with your computer, you learn through internet. So first, when you accumulate knowledge, it's data coming from the internet, and you have an exchange with the machine who, on the other side, is learning from you. But as you are isolated, physically speaking, your learning process is changing because the way you behave and your cognitive learning is changing. So the way you behave, because you are isolated, changes a little bit and in a certain way adapts to the data and to the machine, to the behavior of the machine, through the data that the machine sends you. And then as the machine, through the neural networks, learns from you, she's changing a little bit her behavior and she's coming towards you. So for me, this restricted space of ballot boxes, isolating you from the other human entities, is making the perfect environment for a kind of convergence between the human entity and the machine. To support this idea, I design a form of soccer field. And this soccer field, of course, is coming from a photo that I found online, but I transformed this soccer field. So you can see it's on the bottom and on the top, and the white lines are quite important because they are significant to set up time and space. As in a game, you have a certain amount of time you need to respect, and you are in a certain space to either play the game or watch the game. So it's all the ambivalence of also the situation. Are you a learner? Are you a teacher? Because it's digital and it's your interaction with the machine who is a learner and a teacher. And I use the who and not the which, because for me the machine becomes more and more a viable entity and maybe a sentient entity. Then, to support my idea, I apply different collages onto the canvas. The first collage I use is a representation of a classroom in an empty auditorium. So for me, it asks the question of course, physical isolation. Also, will in the future we would have to go to a certain space or certain place to learn. But the thing is, you are in an auditorium where you can spread knowledge, where you can exchange with people, because normally those auditoriums are full of people. And this time, with the pandemic, you have a classroom. But it's also a classroom to pass exams. But as the photo is empty of any physical entity, it's quite an interrogation about the fact that your physical entity might not be relevant anymore and your digital self might be there but remotely. Then I added a collage of the University of Stanford because it's related to knowledge and to storage of knowledge through books, but also through data. As a university, welcome research centers, and those centers of researchers are full of data that they compose. So it's knowledge through books and digital data, and it's I would say a link from the past to the future. I also took a representation, and it's a digital representation of a soccer field, and they are exactly the same. They are a kind of mirror for me. They mirror each other, but not face to face, on the top of each other. Because for me, it's a representation, so first to the game, to the time and space, but also in this restricted space and time to the digital entity and the physical entity, and which entity will prevail over the other one. I also did a representation of the blueprints of the HSBC Bank, because as I like to mention, everything is related to productivity, to economic productivity, and the HSBC blueprints were a good symbolic of how you still need to be productive, economically speaking, physically speaking, or digitally speaking. And at the end, I added the collage of an highway, and as you can see, you have two sides. One side is with some cars, and the other side is empty. It represents different things. First, the physical entity, then the digital entity. Physical entity with the cars, they are physical, they move, you have the physical mobility. On the other side, it's completely empty, so it's related to the digital entity. But also, socially speaking, it relates to the fact that before and still nowadays, you need a physical mobility for cars, especially in the US. And then you have those empty highways, which has been the case during the pandemic. So it asks the social question of digital mobility and the fact that people have access to the digital tools to be mobile, not physically speaking, but digitally speaking. And at the very end, to link all those prints on the canvas, I drew some networks. They are made of ink and marker, and they link all those different notions. They represent for me the networks of centralized, decentralized, and distributed networks, but as I play with them, I always transform them and they are more imaginary. And at the very end, I drew a shape, a geometrical shape, which is transparent. It acts as a veil that you need to cross to see the reality, because I like to relate on the allegory of the cave of Plato, but currently the fire has been transformed into pixels and into binary code, and we need to cross this veil to see a kind of reality. So this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any question, don't hesitate. You can also follow me on Instagram, EmilieDuval49. I have a website where I write the description of my paintings, and you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Have a good day and see you for next session.